Hi there, this is Peter Fan for Agent Builder Coaching, and it's back to business or back to school week, one or the other, because they are somewhat synonymous, right? They for many people, the back to school season is really a transition, right, from holiday mode to back to school, back to work mode, but also kind of a quick period of time in which people really start thinking about where we at. Maybe people have had a little bit of time over the summer holidays to think about, talk about what they're going to do, where they're at in their life, in their home, in their space, and what is next in their adventure. So, really good time to kind of reconnect and reach out and for the right reasons, right? We always talk about that we need to do the activities of getting in touch and staying in touch with people, and that's certainly true. However, that's not the same as being a high pressure salesperson. This is really connecting with your sphere of influence, your people, at their place and space in life at the time that is appropriate for it. So if you realize that people are going through changes and phases in their life, then connect on that level as to how can you add value to that phase or place in their life. And you're rarely going to have a rejection. It's basically adding to what they're already talking about. Right? Most passionate real estate agents, they're not really about selling houses. They're helping people through their transitions in their life. And that a house, a property, a home is very oftentimes part of that. Kind of goes without saying. Yes, that it serves your business objectives is kind of part of that situation. But for example, if you want to really, if you connect with families, kids, schools, that whole sense of community, then this is a great time because everybody gets back to these kind of community focused activities, right? So sponsor something, sponsor a drive, some, you know, uh, easier, better way to remember and remind kids of doing their homework, some sort of a checklist. And guess what? One of those tools you're going to find is our giveaway to you this week. So pay attention to it because it's actually a really neat one and with some really good ideas, with some contests and maybe some ways to reach out and really have a little bit of fun with the whole thing. Because that's the other part, right? We forget that we think that all of this is serious. No, it's actually supposed to be fun, right? So do a little bit more of the personal notes, seasonal kind of getting in touch, staying in touch, the type things. You'll find if you look up in your community, there's all kinds of ways to connect the dots, right? If you're part of a school or you're part of a service club or a church or your sports clubs or fitness center, what have you, is there a way to connect back to the community where the kids, the families, the you as a presence in there can contribute in some fashion or another. And it doesn't always need to be money, right? You just showing up and being nice and kind and being attentive things is oftentimes all that it needs. Okay? And do a little bit less of the generic email type stuff. There's a script for this week. Okay. Hey, hope your September is off to a great start with everyone back into routines. I wanted to check in. How's your home working for you? And now that school's back in season, it's a simple little script. It's just one of those FRD type things that you can just kind of roll off and get comfortable with, tinker with it as you want. I wanted to give you something that is just non-threatening, so to speak, but still on point, right? Okay. Now, as you know, we always talk about and as you start to get used to our model here for these newsletters and these blogs, where we typically follow the 7 essentials, right? So we talked about in your big why, how does back to school relate? As superpower, how does back to school relate? Now you're talking about, what kind of systems do you run to get in touch and stay in touch, right? Some sort of a WOW related, i.e., superior client services follow-up program do you have in place? What is your automatic lead machine campaign say? What kind of sphere of influence calls and scripts do you use? What kind of forecasting pipeline do you have? Market updates, responsiveness to what is going on in the market, in banking world, in economy, and employment status, what have you. Knowing your numbers, right? It relates to the previous, and it is definitely part of the essential seven. Is where is the market at? Because you may be aware, but do you know if your sphere of influence, your clients, your target audience is aware, right? How many of your sphere of influence is actually engaged at this point in time in the market, or are they completely turned off? And why is that? Right? What kind of typical kind of completion projections can you anticipate? And is there a ratio between the number of leads that you've generated and you being able to generate appointments, listings, and potential sales? I tell you, when the market shifts as it has, these ratios, these percentages will change and will dramatically impact, therefore, what you need to do in order to stay on top of your goals, your objectives. Right? Just because the market is slowed down doesn't mean that you need to slow down, is what that means. Right? That means that we need to adjust. Okay? It's just, unfortunately, that's a reality. It's harsh and it's blunt, but that's the way it is. Right? And I know that many of the people in the marketplace, this is not trying to make anybody feel bad, but for many of the agents, they have never gone through a downturn in the marketplace. So for them, they look up and go like, what just happened? Everybody pulled the rug from underneath my feet. And where did all the buyers go? What just happened? They don't understand it because they thought that leads would come automatically. Well, no, leads are the first to disappear. And the ones that are there are not very committed either. Right? So it's critically important that you take control of that by literally connecting with more people faster, better, more directly, more responsiveness to their needs, not your needs, right? And so on and so forth. So knowing your numbers therefore becomes a key component. That's why I spend a little bit more time on it in this particular case. So here's an automatic transaction machine and automatic lead machine. Top tip is run a back to school campaign. There's a downloadable guide in your freebies for this week. There's a gift set of ideas that in there. They're simple, they're easy. Some will take a little bit of money. Others just getting something printed or getting some sort of a handout. Having a fun contest can be really, really rewarding. All of which will keep it fun, easy, and not overly complicated. Okay? Again, the wow factor is oftentimes in the little things, right? If you have a sphere of influence with people with school-going kids, and you went and talked to the parents and said, "Hey, I just wanted to say hi, and here's a coffee card for either Starbucks or Timmy's or what have you." Right? You think they would like it? Yeah, it's going to cost a bit of money, but that will actually go a long, long way. People will just be highly appreciative. Okay. All right. So, like I said, there's a couple of downloads. There's the 5 templated social media posts, and they're specific again to back to school and back to business type activities. There is 2 back to school type campaign downloads. One is your focus. There's in an action plan and activities for you to think about and implement to get in touch and stay in touch with your sphere of influence and your target audience. And there's one that is actually basically a handout for the consumers. Now, that one is completely 100% customizable, so you can make it completely what you want it to be. So it's our freebies for you, and I hope you will take for that. All right, so it's a really good time to kind of reconnect, reset your opportunities. This is your push for the final quarter of 2025. Yeah, I know. I can't believe I'm saying that. It's, oh, wow. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So have fun with it, work at it, do things on purpose, right? And make sure that you subscribe to our Agent Advantage Weekly. Download your gifts and keep building your fantastic fall pipeline. And you will too have a fantastic end quarter of 2025. So subscribe, forward to a friend. And if you have questions, book a call with us. Have a fantastic week. All the best.